great. This is a sweet setup, right?
This is so sick.
It all worked out perfectly.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to be here, to have you in the studio, to do this podcast with you. I got to adjust the mics in here. Like, there's a lot to do. But you are now the most recurring guest on the podcast. 260 plus episodes, and you're the number one guest in terms of guest appearances. How does that feel?
It feels right. It feels like it is my number one life goal to be the most recurring guest on the Danny Miranda podcast. Like when you're in Madison Square Garden, I'm going to be in the crowd like, I'm the most recurring guest. That's going to be me.
The crowd. You're going to be on the stage there.
That's true. I'll be there.
So how's life going for you right now in this moment?
Life is really good. We've been in Austin now for about a week, have a few more days to go, and have been working towards the ability to come here and have the time that we've been able to spend together and just have the freedom for a long time now. Haven't had the ability to always travel with my business, my photo booth company, but over the last year have done the right things, and now I'm feeling all the results of just compounding simplicity almost, like decisions to simplify. And they all come together at once and just give you this time back. It's a really like amazing thing.
It's amazing to watch that whole journey unfold from my perspective. And I kind of just like want to frame this conversation in terms of creating on the internet and allowing people to get a look inside of two people who see themselves doing this for a very long time, creating, and maybe be the friend that they don't have in their regular life and be the friends that we can turn to. So kind of like a random show style, shorter episode, but just a great way to be on the path with people who can't get it in their regular life.
It's perfect.
Did you ever feel like you didn't have anybody in your life who was creating on the internet? People, how do you feel about people not getting you or not understanding you as a creator?
Well, in the beginning, it was pretty lonely, because I didn't have any connections online. I had no content out there. I was just starting, and I think a lot of people don't hesitate to post online just because, they're scared what other people will think. They're worried about their friends seeing it. But I just came to the conclusion, I guess, early on that like literally no one cares. They'll look at it, have like some millisecond judgment, and then they're back to their lives, focused on themselves. And if you just really like live in your own world that way, it helps you to just destroy the algorithm and just attack it and share a lot with the world. And that was what I did early on. I just didn't care and just embraced the feeling of being alone. And now it's different, where I have people like you and people we've met here and people online who, you feel like you're in kind of like a small brotherhood.
Like as you keep going, your circle expands and you find more people who also feel the same way as you and get you at a deep level.
Yeah, and you can feel that even with a few hundred followers as well.
True. When was the first moment you started to feel that?
That's tough. I don't know. Maybe when I was in like a few months into posting on Instagram, there's a few people doing what I was doing. But now I'm more attracted to people who are not doing what I'm doing and are doing things like you with your podcast and people I can learn from and add more. Does that make sense?
Kind of. Go on that. What do you mean?
Yeah, it's good to surround yourself with people who aren't just in your lane and are not only like doing things bigger and better than you, but also doing things different. So, different modalities. I think there's a lot of power of taking things that other people are doing in completely different mediums and bringing it to yours.
Yeah, that's very true. And looking, like, how have you done that with Behavior Hack?
Well, a small way is like your obsession with clips lately, and you recently had a clip like take off and exploded your following. I think I've done that in a small way with my content, being here and trying to just put out more stuff and not expecting anything. But when you do that, good things happen.
Yeah, I want to talk to you about that, going crazy and going viral on Instagram. Have you ever experienced that or felt that? Bro, it's insane what happens when you get all that dopamine at once. Like one clip hit 1.2 million, and I thought that was sick. And then another clip hits 4+ million views on Instagram. And my following goes from like 4,000 to 20,000 in a week since we've been here. And I attribute some of that to being living under the same roof as you, going at it, posting as many clips as I possibly can.
Yeah.
Like,
You must have been on drugs the last few days. A little bit, right?
bro, you see me waking up in the morning clapping, so excited.
Danny will just wake up and scream randomly and like look at his phone. It's really good stuff. But not because he's like pumped about followers, just because he's pumped about like growing and like attacking the algorithm, like we said. I don't know. I tweeted this thing once, which I think is true. It's like your hits make you, but your reps make hits.
Oof.
And it's like those hits are like, look at what you just said. You went from 4,000 to what is it, like 22,000 now?
22,000.
That's all because you had a hit. But look at how many reps you've done. It's like, you've done a ludicrous amount of events. It's like another thing I said, do the rational thing with a rational intensity.
Yeah.
Like, you're supposed to post clips, but most people are not posting 4, 5, 6, 7 clips a day.
That's it.
And if you do that, really good things happen, I think.
Yeah. And then I start seeing it rub off on you. You got 3 clips going, or 3 posts a day, where like in the past you were here and there, hitting, missing.
In the last 6 months, yeah.
And now and I was the same way with podcasts, here and there. But like being with you is like the ultimate source of we're on the same path, we're chasing similar visions, and
same long-term vision.
And nothing's going to stop us if we're in that place together. So talk to me about like going to 3 posts a day, writing on the wall your stats now.
Well, I started doing that because of you. Danny's it's pretty amazing, actually. When we got here, Danny started writing his social metrics podcast. Was it downloads?
We got Twitter followers, Instagram followers, TikTok, all of it, YouTube, and just tracking it every day, because then it's like appreciating the small wins of 10 new people coming in here, 30 new people here. And I think a lot of times we lie to ourselves in the sense of we say, oh, I actually don't care about my followers. I don't care about growing. And like at some points that might be true. But for me, I was like, I want to get to a better place. How do you get to a better place? You track, and you also appreciate what happens every day. So every day I post the new numbers, and it's been really helpful for me to show more love to the process.
Yeah, it's just that is really powerful. And just like physically forcing yourself to like etch it into the physical world with your hand. There's something powerful about that, and you could see it. You literally went from 4,000 to this, and you could say that's coincidence, but it's I don't think it is. And I've been posting more. It's still like I think 5% of what I have to offer the content world.
Why do you say that?
Just because I think I have a lot more to offer, but and like especially longer form, not just like short, poetic. I think it's like more like poetry than it is writing, honestly. Not in like a self-gloating way, just like it kind of is. Like I want it to sound really good, and I want it to hit someone, like verbal adrenaline or something. And but there's something about posting regularly, I think, that builds a different connection with the audience. Like we were talking about how if you could do that consistently and someone's reading your post, 3-4 times a day, it is like the soundtrack into their life almost. And it's like almost like listening to music a lot. But it's like now it almost becomes a default in someone's thought patterns. If they're reading the word obsess 3 times a day, that's powerful, I think. Because then, when you're in like a micro moment where you're tired and you're debating, stopping studying or stopping working, your brain can switch to that without even thinking about it.
Yeah, it's like music in a way.
Yeah.
Like you were saying. And it's, if you can do that on a consistent basis, if you can stay up with the posts, you can change someone's life in micro ways, which add up to major ways. But one thing I've noticed from spending so much time with you is, 1, you love energy drinks. 2, you are obsessed with design in a way that I wasn't really clear on or didn't know fully before. I always knew you were a great designer. I knew there were things that you did that you're able to put things on a screen in a way that I wish I could, in terms of making it look visually appealing. And then I see the notes and notes of Canva designs you've done, and I'm just like, holy smokes, this dude is built different. And you're not even trying to. It seems like it just play for you. So take me through your obsession with design and where you can trace that back.
Yeah, I mean, I think you've done a good job at like highlighting that with me, and it's made me think about things. I said this to you. I think that's one of your gifts in general, is highlighting the gifts in other people. I mean, that's kind of what you're doing on a podcast. You're trying to like bring someone's gift out and share that with the world. But yeah, the design thing, I mean, I think, it's like an underrated aspect of like what I do. Like I even consider like writing or copywriting, design, moving words around in specific places to create an effect and create an impact on the reader. But even just like the way things are assembled on a post with my event company, there's like 1,000 tiny design decisions from, the spacing on a web page to, the spacing of a logo, the color of a logo, how the email is designed, the fonts, everything that it creates value. And I'm like, I'm obsessed with that. Like, truth. It is a truth. I think I realized it, and you helped me realize that more and more, and it's something I'm thinking a lot about.
It's fascinating because our friend Noah Heisman, who will be on the podcast in the next month, talked about the idea of chasing what's beautiful. And when you design something, you are inherently chasing what's beautiful and helping create a more beautiful world in a way.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. Like, it's so cool that that's something that you've just naturally drawn yourself to. So like what advice would you say for me personally about designing things better? Maybe designing my podcast, maybe designing just social, like what design tips would you have for me, or if you can't think of me, just for anyone in general?
Yeah, I think it's kind of starts, and I think it's hard to teach, is like you have to have a third eye over your shoulder. And so Paul Graham has this great article about having startup ideas, this great blog post, and he says how you almost want to have a person over your shoulder everywhere you go, secretly looking for ideas and gaps of value that you could deliver to the world. And I love that. It's super hard to do, but I think the best entrepreneurs, like I've been hanging out with Noah, and like he has his gym, Squatch, and I've been like always just like randomly saying ideas out of nowhere. Even when he's telling me about like some philosophy thing, I'm like, oh, you should do this for Squatch. And I think the same thing goes to design. Being able to like read between the lines of, like, oh my God, I love this brand, and I'm clicking on this ad and I'm buying this product, but why? Like, like what font did they use? What color schemes did they use? How is the whole flow from the moment you see this brand for the first time to the moment, you're a lifelong fan? And I think like that's where it kind of starts, I think, is like having that appreciation for design. Like I have so many things I've screenshotted. There's a really good tool. It's called My Mind I've been using lately. And it's kind of like Pinterest. You could just use Pinterest too, but it just lets you, it's more easy to like save things from around the internet. And yeah, so I think that's where it starts. And then, committing, I think, like if you have a brand, like just committing to, rules, design choices. Like, on Behavior, I try to keep it like very clean and simple, not a lot of crazy colors, mostly black and white. That's what I'd say. The big thing is noticing and just like looking at the brands and the pieces of media that you love and seeing like, oh, this is how they have the title pop up on their YouTube videos. This is how they do the thumbnail for the podcast. This is how they write the thumbnail, all that stuff.
I love what you said because it highlights that it starts with curiosity for you. Mm-hmm. Curiosity of why am I attracted to something? Why am I attracted to this brand? What about it? And I've never really thought about design that way.
Yeah, I think for me, like with my photo booth company, I think we're selling a luxury product now. And I think the only way you sell a luxury product is an obsession with design.
The only way you sell a luxury product is an obsession with design. Why is that the case? I believe that's true as well, but why do you think that's the case?
It depends on the luxury product as well, but it's like this is a piece of someone's identity. And like Noah says, people want to go towards beauty. And yeah, the design is everything. And once you really start like realizing that, it bleeds into everything you do.
So what do you think I could do? What practical tips would you have to improve the design of the podcast?
Well, like one thing, I don't think of anything when I think of the Danny Miranda podcast in terms of design. I think of your logo, your podcast logo, which I think is cool. But other than that, I don't. Like you could have a very specific, like if you want to see a perfect example of this, go look at Jocko Willink. He has and what's special about him and the way you should do this is purely authentic. He's using a military style font. It was probably the first choice. He's like, oh, let's use this font. He probably decided that quickly. Black and white. There's a reason why he does black and white. I don't know it offhand, but
it's because he was doing the first podcast and it just looked cooler.
Yeah, so that's fair. It's just authentic. He's not. You can't force it, but you have to do something that's authentic and then commit to it. And I think you can change it over time, but you really shouldn't be. Like, you should be for years keeping it the same. And so I think for you, it'd be like, okay, what unique font could I use for my reels, for text? Maybe you could do something. And there's a balance there. There's the balance of like for me right now on Instagram, I'm doing tweet style posts because they perform the best, even though I kind of do want to get into more of like a unique look. But, and so there is a line there between performance and, authenticity or being unique. But I think you could in general, and it could be on your website, it could be on your new newsletter, it could be everywhere. It could even be something you do in descriptions. It could be emojis you use. There's so many ways you can use design in everything you do.
Yeah, we're going to have to design or create some design for my new newsletter tonight.
Good.
And that was your idea. I just launched this newsletter in the DM, paid newsletter in order to help people look behind the scenes of growing my podcast from 25,000 plays per month to 1 million plays per month. That's the goal. And it just came from a conversation of us in the car together, brainstorming ideas. And it was just, wow, that's definitely what I should do. So first of all, thank you so much for that. I really appreciate it. And second of all,
I'm most proud of the name.
In the DM. It's sweet.
Sounds good. I like it.
Yeah. Well, you came up with it, so I hope you do like it. But what you've never done a paid newsletter, but what types of things do you think I should be thinking about as I'm going on this journey?
I think with you, when people think about you and your brand, other than the design things we were talking about before, it's authenticity. You're truly authentic, and people like supporting you because you're just real and you're just on the journey and sharing every aspect of the journey. And so I think for you, it'll be being completely open with how many subscribers you're getting, how you're growing it. That I think will be everything. And just I remember we were sitting in your apartment a year ago and we were looking at your tweets, and I think I'm more analytical than you.
Definitely.
And so we were looking at your best tweets, and I was like, dude, all your best tweets are not when you're saying some type of motivational thing, almost like a, what do they call them?
Platitude.
Platitude. Yeah. It's not that. It's you're saying, I just ran 15 miles.
Yeah.
Or I just reached 1,000 downloads per month. That type of stuff.
Yeah.
Those types of moments where people like you for, because it's rare. It's really rare. So I think leaning into that. Yeah. Was that what you asked me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What advice do you have for the paid newsletter? And
just being relentlessly useful.
Relentlessly useful. Violent action, baby.
Yeah. One of my favorite things I've said online lately is, I think I'm going to say it right. It's be unique, useful, and relentless. The world is yours.
Be unique, useful, and relentless.
Yeah.
The world is yours.
Yeah. Because it's true. That's what I said to you. What is the most, other than your podcast, what is the most useful thing you can offer the world? And I genuinely think it's how are you getting these guests? People don't understand how to DM people. They stare at their contact, they open the DM, they open the message and look at it, and then they go back to their lives and never message them and never get the guest.
Yeah.
And that's super valuable, I think.
Yeah.
And then you have the growth as well, the things you're doing to grow it, how you're doing the clips, how often are you doing the clips. But especially the DM thing. That's why I wanted to call it that. One, because it sounds good, your name, kind of like Real AF, Andy Frisella's podcast. But it's also in the DM, that's where shit happens.
Yeah.
Shit goes down in the DM.
Yeah.
And that's how you're getting these guests mainly. I mean, you have email too, but in the email it doesn't sound better. It doesn't sound good.
Yeah. And it's also it's cool to get your advice specifically because you're somebody who literally studies the most successful creators in the world with reckless ambition and intensity. You have notes in your phone, you have what is this person doing well, what font are they using, you're breaking everything down from the top creators in the world. And so to have you in my corner, someone I could talk to, it feels like a cheat code because I look at everyone too. I look at the people at the top of the game, but you take it to another level. So what are the commonalities you see between the top creators in the world right now?
I would say it's doing one simple thing. And this is something Gary Vee highlighted about Mr. Beast, where if you listen in Mr. Beast interviews, he'll say at least 10 times in an interview, I just want to make the best videos possible. And I think at the end of the day, that is what the best creators do. And for you, that would just be, I think, you want to make the best podcast possible. And if you just do that, if you just focus on delivering the most value through that, over time, you will succeed. And that includes getting great guests who haven't. I think what's special about you is I told you this the other day. I think I helped you tweet it. It's you don't interview people about what what they do. You interview people about who they are. And so that's the gap. So like, for example, you have Cody Sanchez on after this. She's done a ton of podcasts about what she does, but I'm sure she hasn't done as many about who she is. And I'm assuming you're going to ask those questions because that's just who you are. And yeah.
And so for you though, what are you trying to be the best in the world at?
Right now, like what message am I trying to, what am I trying to do the best of the world at?
You know, like for me,
Yeah.
it's
I haven't found it yet. Honestly, I don't think. And that's, you know, over the last year, I've been really focused on building my company, and I think that was the right thing to do. And I am not a fan of just like posting for the algorithm and not for the people that follow you. So when I say attack the algorithm, like I'm like exaggerating a little bit, but like I think a lot of creators are trying to like harvest something from their audience versus give them something. And I only want to do the giving. And so, yeah. And like right now it's coming from a real place where I'm like, I have something. I have such good energy and I want to give that to people. So what am I trying to do the best? What am I trying to be the best in the world at? I don't really know right now. I think when I talk about obsession, right? Something I've talked a lot about is you have to have a vehicle for it. And I'm right now obsessed with finding that vehicle. But like for you, you found your obsession, which was you naturally fell into podcasting because it was what you loved doing. And then you found a great vehicle for it. You loved having real raw conversations with people. And you found a great vehicle for it, which is podcasting. Yes, I don't think I have an answer for that right now.
Does it frustrate you when you study so many of these people and you're like, well, this person's found it, this person's found it, this person's found it, and I'm here searching, and where's my thing? Is that like frustrating for you personally?
I think it was, and it still is now, just because I'm impatient. But it has to be real for me. Like, I don't know. It has to come from a real place. And I think it will. And now, like, I have a lot more time on my hands, and I am focusing more over the next 6-12 months on content, and because I have the time. And so I think I will naturally fall into it if I keep obsessing over it.
I think so too. And I think like in some respect, the things you're doing now, you'll see, oh wow, that was part of the obsession, but I just didn't identify it at that moment.
Yeah.
It reminds me of Tim Ferriss, where he's like trying to find his obsession by podcasting and like trying to take a break from writing, and then podcasting ends up turning into his obsession without him even realizing it or trying to do it.
Yeah.
What were you going to say before?
I don't remember.
Saw something come up in your mind?
No.
All right. So let's go through some of your tweets.
Okay.
Or I guess now that we're on the topic of obsession, why don't we talk about like how does somebody find their obsession? Because I think you spend a lot of time with obsession. So how does someone find their obsession?
Yeah, so there's like the tactical answer, which I'll give first because I think it could actually be useful for people, which is, you know, look at your screen time, just the Apple screen time, or whatever phone you use. Look at your laptop screen time especially, and you could even download very specific like Chrome extensions that can see you exactly what you use. And then,
do you know any of them, or you just
no?
search,
I would just go in like the Chrome App Store and look at time tracker, screen time tracker.
Okay.
And then I would look at your YouTube history. That's a huge one. And then other than that, there's 3 tests I really like. The pee test. So what are you doing at your like laptop or in general where you like are so focused where you forget to pee, and like you're holding in your pee, sitting at your desk, like typing away. That is usually your obsession. Like if you were younger and liked video games, you were probably obsessed with video games and did that. That's like my example. Then you have the midnight test. Like what do you stay up past midnight and just like keep going, and you don't even think about the clock, and then it's 3 a.m. and you're like, fuck, how am I still doing this? But you love it. And then there's the food test, which is a similar wavelength, which is when do you forget to eat? You know, when do you just keep working and you don't even think, you're like, holy shit, I did not eat all day. Yeah, so those are 3 tests I like. And then in general, we were talking about this with Noah the other day. It's obsession is really the thing you can't not do. Obsession is the thing you are naturally doing. It's not necessarily a talent. I think it is usually a talent, but your obsession could be different than your talent. Like you could just be a great piano player, but you hate playing piano. Usually they go hand in hand though, obsession and talent. And if you just look at what you naturally want to be doing all day, what you don't need a break from, that is your obsession. But then there's 2 sides to it. Well, really there's 3. There's the obsession as a thing. So what are you doing?
Mm.
There's the obsession as a feeling, which is how are you doing it? Obsession in terms of that. And that's really the topic I'm most passionate about, is just like turning off the world, staying in for 4 weekends in a row to finish a project, staying up for a whole week, not sleeping, just doing that, not forever, but for now, like for this moment. And then with that, you can have multiple obsessions in your life. I think Arnold Schwarzenegger's like a perfect example of that. It doesn't have to be one thing forever, but for right now, this moment, allow yourself to be obsessed. Don't give in to any pressures to be normal or go out to dinner or drink at dinner or party. Just fully obsess. And then there's the third part, which is the vehicle, which is what we were talking about before, is which you don't need to have that, but if you want to like be successful in the world and provide value to people, you need a vehicle for that.
Mm. Why do you think you're so obsessed with obsession?
Well, I think it's like looking back. Well, there's two reasons. One, I don't know how I like naturally like started talking about it often, but I did think it was important to get known for something, because people will send you things and tag you in things with obsession. A good test of this, if you're a creator, is look at your true fans' bios.
Oof.
A lot of mine, not calling anyone out, like people who like, I'm not saying you're a true fan, but like people who really like my content, I can see some of them have added the word obsessed to their bio.
Oh, wow.
And it's definitely like wasn't before I started talking about it.
Oh, wow.
Which is awesome. Like I love that. I think that's so cool. Like my bio, my like tagline has been follow obsession. Before that, it was take the hard route. So I've had like 2. And before that, they used that too, some of them, which is so cool. Like that's amazing. And yeah, so I think it's important to like have kind of one idea. You don't have to, but I think it's cool to have like something you're known for. Like James Clear habits. There's a lot of examples. David Perel writing. Casey Neistat vlogging, like things like that. I think that's cool because people will think about you, throughout their lives.
Yeah, you said there's 2 reasons.
Oh, and yeah, the other reason is just it's naturally what I was doing my whole life. Like with the photo booth business, when I started it, I was willing to drive all the way upstate, 8-9 hours one way to do events and not make that much money, but I knew this was what I needed to do at the time. When I became an EMT, I would do 12-hour shifts every weekend. And looking back, like that was crazy. Like I wasn't even getting paid. Like,
why did you do that? Just obsession? Obsessed with what exactly?
Oh, I wanted to be a doctor then. So I think I was doing it partially because I wanted like the credits, but also at the same time, like that was crazy. Like that was a lot. And I think I just like was like, I'm going to go all in. And I think I've done that my whole life,
Yeah. And I think that's another reason why we get along so well, is because whenever we do something, if there are periods and moments of us where we can just go crazy in terms of getting so focused, so into it. And I think in life, there aren't too many people I've seen who are actually like that.
It's true.
You agree?
Yeah.
Like that's part of the reason why we get along so well?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Surround yourself with relentless humans. I'm looking at it on your laptop.
Hell
right
yeah.
now.
Let's talk about it. So great post from you. Went pretty bonkers, pretty wild. Shared by
Decent one.
Decent post for me.
Decent.
For what I see is pretty good. But this post right here, and listen to this poetry, people. This is poetry. Surround yourself with relentless humans, people who plan in decades but live in moments. Train like savages but create like artists. Obsess in work, relax in life. People who know this is finite and choose to play infinite games. Find people going up mountains. Climb together. It's so simple. It's so wise. It's at Behavior Hack on Instagram. What does that post mean to you right now?
Yeah, it was inspired by just being here in Austin, being surrounded by people like you, Noah, CJ.
Noah Heisman, CJ Finley.
Amazing hosts here in Austin. And yeah, it really does change you. Like I haven't had as much of that where I'm from and living in the city. And it's just, it gets your brain running differently. I talked in a different post about Austin about if you were born in 1,000 different places, there would be 1,000 different versions of you. And I think when you surround yourself with relentless people, you start to become a different version of yourself, and it brings that out of you. And I do think someone could sit in the room alone, obsess, and do whatever they want, basically, at a laptop. Press the right keys in the right order, and create unlimited wealth. I genuinely just have to believe that.
Happened to Vitalik, basically. Vitalik
Yeah.
Buterin of Ethereum.
Yeah, it's a good example. I just believe that, but at the same time, that's really hard. And like, I don't know if I could do that. And so, being around people is a good switch. It really is. And it just gets your brain like wired differently for what's normal. So like, you want to be around people where normal is extreme. And, then you go around people where that extreme is normal. So you keep going. You can keep going, and you should. That's like a beautiful part about life.
It's cool because people who are extreme are almost a filter. It's like, okay, I'm going to do 10 clips a day.
Yeah.
And people are like, that's crazy. I don't want to be anywhere near you because
that's a month for some people.
Yeah, and that's a month for some people. And some people are like my friend Harry. He was like, oh my God, like I got to do this too. And like get so excited by it. It's like, that's my type of person.
Yeah. It's infectious.
It is. Yeah. And so like we've mentioned Noah a couple of times, and I feel like we should talk about him a little more because he really has been such an impactful part of our journey here in Austin. And it just happened by chance from you knowing CJ on Instagram, him connecting us. What is meeting Noah Heisman and living and he's been like our camp counselor in a way.
Yeah.
But what has that been like from your perspective?
Yeah, it's been a lot of things. He's inspired me a lot. So the story is basically I knew CJ Finley, awesome guy with Thrive on Life, his brand, and did his podcast about 6 months ago. Told him I was coming to Austin. He was away that weekend, but connected me with Noah, who I'd also known just not as well through social media. And Noah just went above and beyond. We talked about the story about Airbnb, where they did this exercise to go through, level 5 experience is like, okay. Level 10 experience is like amazing. The house is beautiful. Level 12 is like level 12 experience is you get picked up from the airport in like a limo. You get showered with gifts, etc. Noah is a level 12 host. Like he really inspired me that way. Just taking us in, taking us to his gym, inviting us to stuff every day, pushing us on workouts, above and beyond. It's been really inspiring. And he's also a very unique human. I like people who are unique combinations of things. Like Naval says, and he brought this up too, I think, like the elephant on a unicycle from the Joe Rogan podcast. People who are unique combinations you've never seen before. And Noah is, I would first say he's a writer, and he's a gym owner, entrepreneur, and a startup lawyer, which is like such a unique combination.
And a philosopher.
Yeah.
And just a kind human. Like there's so many factors to him.
Yeah. And it's also, so he's inspired me a lot being here. Just to train harder. And one thing that's interesting here is like just putting yourself in different environments is like the gym we've been hanging out, his gym, Squatch Frontier Fitness in Austin, Texas, East Austin. People there are savages. They're athletes. That's why I wrote in that post, like train like savages. They're shirtless. Everyone's ripped. And he's like, yeah, if you come here, it's just like a factory. Like you come in and you just become ripped like day by day. And I'm like, shit, I should probably be here more.
We've been here for 10 days and we feel it.
Yeah. And so, it's a really cool environment where that is normal. It's normal to act like that versus like me in Brooklyn lately. It's not like that.
Yeah.
Like I train hard, I lift hard, but it's different.
Yeah. So like, what would you tell someone or tell yourself who's like in a difficult environment for their own goals and for their own vision?
Yeah, I think like the easiest way to change your mind is to change your environment.
The easiest way to change your mind is to change your environment.
It's true. I like the expression, you got to jerk the wheel. Like if you're driving and you're just stuck going the same place and nothing's changing, you just jerk the wheel and go somewhere new. And just drop yourself somewhere new, like spawning on a map.
Like Fortnite.
Yeah, like Fortnite. Just drop in somewhere new. And because I think like I posted this once, like you can change your environment by working out even. Like that changes like your internal environment.
Your mental state.
You can meditate and change your internal environment. But if you do those things, like kind of, we haven't really been meditating, but like if you work out hard, change your internal environment and change your external environment, like going to a new state where you've never been, that creates amazing effects, I think, where it can really set you in the right direction. Yeah. That's what I recommend to someone who's stuck. Just even for the day, like even for a day, just like drive somewhere you've never been and spend the day there. And have a goal maybe. Like I came here with some goals and have a goal of things you want to figure out. And I think sometimes they'll become really clear to you. That could even just be like taking a paddleboard out into the ocean. Like I like doing that. And You're just somewhere new.
Go to a different place, see a different thing, so your brain will start operating in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or just hang out with Noah.
Both.
Yeah, no, I'm kidding. Yeah, it's crazy, like how being around people like yourself, like full day in, day out, seeing how you think, seeing the nuances of just like what you're thinking about, why you're thinking, how that's changed me in terms of I've never lived with someone who wanted to grow online socially and create content and have similar aspirations. I've never lived with someone like that. So it's a huge addition to my own personal psyche and my own goals. You've seen it firsthand.
Mm-hmm.
So another quote from you here, another poetry. We got hard work beats talent. Obsession beats hard work. 10,000 hours isn't the end. It's the start.
Yeah, I mean, the last part was, I should have gave him credit. That was inspired by Mr. Beast. He said that on a recent podcast, like 10,000 hours is just the start or just the beginning.
We'll clip this and send it to him.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, it's people have a false expectation for what it is to like achieve extreme goals. And yeah, like hard work is just a popular word, but like obsession beats talent when talent doesn't obsess. You know, it's the same thing. It's like I see obsession as another level above hard work, because you can work hard, but it's different than obsession.
What's the difference?
Hard work is it's like it's hard to describe it. Obsession is more like a compulsion, and it's more like an addiction, and it's more of it takes over your whole world versus hard work, where it's just like, all right, I'm going to do this for a little bit really hard and then go back to something else. Obsession should consume you in a great way, and not forever, but for a short amount of time. And it could be, you know, this could mean doing a 4-hour shift writing. This could mean, you know, for a week, really grinding it out and giving up sleep to finish something that matters. That's different than hard work. It is hard work, but it's different. It's another level where it takes over everything. Because that's, I think, when real magic happens. And, you know, you kind of need solitude for that, I think. Like, there's great quotes on, like, solitude is the birthplace of genius. I'm not going to misquote somebody. But it's true. Like, I think obsession requires solitude in a lot of ways.
It's fascinating.
Because to live in your own world like that, you can't be focused on what else is going on. That's why so many people love working early in the morning and late at night. You know, it's not an accident. People work better when the world is off. Because they can be in their own world.
How would you explain someone like Gary Vee, who's like needs to be around someone at all times and is obsessed with business?
Yeah, that's a good point. I think
he's described his own world as just like, it's just him. It's just, he's cut off. And in a way, like being around everyone, he's like, it slows down time just doing business. And so maybe in a way he is isolated in his own mind, even though he's surrounded by people 24/7.
Yeah, Gary's a good example of someone who's like kind of the opposite of what I was describing, where you're right. He loves the chaos of life, and that's where he feels calm. He feels wrong. He feels things are off when he's alone.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know. I think there are different ways to do it, but I think it has to be one or the other. Do you know what I mean?
One or the other what?
Excuse me. You get energy from the solitude or you get energy from the chaos.
Yeah.
I think it kind of has to be one extreme or the other.
Yeah, that's fascinating.
But I think he's a rare example.
It's also going back to the hard work obsession piece, where I feel like hard work you could do for other people. Obsession you can't do for other people. It has to be for yourself.
That's perfect. Yeah.
Right?
Perfectly
like the
said.
internal versus external view from it. And I think it's also worth thinking about, like, where do you get praise from other people versus where do you get praise for yourself by yourself? I think is a good way to think about it.
It's true.
Right? Like the podcast, I'm praising myself for doing it. No, like even when I was doing episode 1 through 20, no one knew that I was doing it, but I was hyped. I was excited. And I couldn't get any external validation because I wasn't doing it for anyone else. And I don't do it for anyone else to this day.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a useful thing to think about, internal versus external.
So, you excited to move to Austin?
Dude, it's a whole different world here. The energy.
I'm not definitely moving here, by the way, but he definitely is, right?
Yeah.
Are you going to say that on the podcast?
You framed that question as if you were also
I know.
but there's a possibility. There's hope.
Possibility. I plan to be a regular.
A regular here, yeah. It's just a beautiful city and a beautiful place, and it's the energy, the relentless humans, the people. Everyone here is creating something, and there's something special about that.
Yeah, that last part is like what I've noticed. And to be fair, like we put ourselves in those situations.
Totally.
But yeah, the people we have met though have just been in general relentless, and a lot of them are doing really creative things and focused on internal goals as well. And so that's really inspiring. It's cool to be in a place like that.
Well, I think the difference is, and you might have wrote about this in your caption, it's like in New York, where we're from, the common theme is what do you do for work and how much money are you making? The conversations are around that. Not always, but around here, it's more so what are you creating? What are you building? What's internally lighting you up? And what's your fitness regime of choice, and how are you growing from that respect? 100%. Obviously, it's very biased considering the type of people we're surrounding ourselves with, but it seems like that's the case.
No, yeah. If you move to Austin, here's what happens. You go to the sauna, you get a whoop band, it teleports onto your wrist.
You start a podcast.
It just happens. You know, you talk about psychedelics, you're curious.
You're psycho-curious.
Psycho-curious. And then you have this conversation too, talking about people who talk about this. So, you know, it's just going to happen. Just gotta embrace it. So the one thing about Austin, which is amazing, there are amazing gyms here.
Yeah.
Like I feel like I haven't been too many places, but I've been around like the Northeast, and they have these amazing like indoor outdoor gyms here, and it is literally like being on drugs, like lifting outside in the sun. If you haven't had that.
Yeah. Are you gonna blow up the names of some of these gyms or?
Well, my favorite, the one we've been to the most is Squatch Frontier Fitness.
Yep.
And then you have Lift ATX as well, has a really cool setup with outdoor weights. Both amazing gyms, pretty close to each other in East Austin. And
I also went to the Collective as well. I got to shout that out for just the incredible facilities they've got there.
Yeah, that's
more higher end.
Yeah, more higher end. That facility is amazing as well. And one thing being here has made me really bullish on is just recovery. CJ Finley was saying so I was asking him like, how is everyone here in such sick shape? It's a sick shape. It's insane.
Yeah.
And he's like, I actually think it's more the recovery than the training. At Squatch, they have this new area called the Hive, and it's really great. It's like right next to the gym, and they have world-class sauna, really beautiful ice tubs, red light therapy.
The sauna is so huge, and like
it's huge.
I can't believe it. It's the best sauna I've been into.
Yeah, I've seen these places popping up in New York, these recovery centers, and some of them are super expensive, but I kind of get it now. Like, I think I need it. Like,
when you first thought about the idea, you weren't that excited about it, but now after doing it, you're like, holy smokes, this actually makes a huge difference.
Yeah, because a lot of gyms don't have like saunas in the city. They really don't have ice baths either. And I'm like bullish now that it's going to be normal to have these things in gyms, and it's going to be normal to like pay for these memberships on the side even.
To you, from being here for 10 days, does it feel like Austin is living in the future kind of?
Yeah, in some ways. Like it's still super weird. Some parts of the town just feel like you're in the middle of nowhere. But then, you know, the downtown area is pretty nice, some parts of it. And just the people, their habits are moving towards the future. In terms of people wanting to, you know, create stuff online and really take care of their bodies in like the newest ways and biohack as much as possible. And like I said, we are definitely with a biased group with most of our time here. But you can find those people here more than anywhere. And it's cool to be somewhere where it's like moving towards the future versus I feel like in New York, it's basically done. Like, especially Manhattan, like it's not changing much. Like you'll have some new parks maybe. Brooklyn's growing more, I think. I think Brooklyn's kind of cool. But it's a different type of lifestyle. It's very different. And it's cool to have the contrast though. I think I'll always want the contrast. Like I kind of posted that the other day, like be a paradox. And like even the post I did with the Relentless Humans, like these people, like you're extreme in one way and then you go the other way. Like, you know, you spend a month in the city and then you go live in the middle of the forest. I think I'll always like that lifestyle. Yeah,
well, you're welcome in Austin anytime I'm here with the couch or anything like that.
Hell yeah.
But any final closing parting words for the people? Do you have a challenge? We spoke about challenges in the past.
What was the challenge last time?
I don't
post
remember.
Every day for 30 days?
Yeah, I think so.
I would say, okay, here's a challenge. Go and do the exercise that I said before with like, look at your YouTube history, look at your Chrome tabs that are open right now, like as you're listening to this, or look at maybe your recent podcast episodes and just make a list of like, you could call it the obsession analysis, OA for short, and send this to me if you do it because I'd love to see it. And just jot what everything is. Like, okay, I watched a YouTube video about sales. I watched a vlog from Bali. I
listened to this podcast.
I spent, an hour playing this game, I don't know, or doing anything. Just jot it all down and you'll see patterns. Same thing with business. Like it goes the same thing with business. Like that's how we did it for my business is we looked at all the types of services we were doing. We looked at what are we doing the most? What are we the best at? What do we like never have to refund people? What are the people happiest with? And now it's our whole business and it changes everything. Like that was my business's obsession almost.
Yeah.
You know? And it's like, just do that. That's my challenge.
And also on top of that, also check your Amazon purchases or just your purchases in general. What are you buying? What are you spending money on? Because that's almost the clearest indication of what you value and your communication to the world.
Yeah, that's a great one. And just like make this organized. So say like YouTube, you know, Chrome tabs, Amazon, etc., books, things you've read. Make it detailed, and you'll see patterns.
And ask yourself, why are you doing those things?
Yeah.
So
because a lot of times we're like drones, like just like opening tabs after tabs, and if you just slow down and realize what you're doing, there are secrets in there. And I think a lot of success is like looking at those secrets between the lines and using them to create things.
Beautiful place to come to a close. I appreciate you so much. I love you, man. You're the best.
Love you
and
too.
Zach Pogrob or at Behavior Hack, wherever you follow, and appreciate you tremendously.